into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America.
Okay, here's how I'm going to start the episode. Hello, Batman. I have a riddle for you. It's a 5-letter word, and you have 5 or 6 guesses to guess it. And if you get a letter right, it will turn green. And if you get it right, but it's in the wrong space, it'll turn yellow. And if you don't get it in 6, so I'll fucking kill somebody. I repeated a letter. I'm so fucking stupid. Why did I use C twice? Hello, everyone. We're going to talk about Batman later and how it's actually about Wordle.
The Wordler.
Wordler, everyone. Yeah, that's the guy who invented that game and sold it to the New York Times. He wears a bag on his head.
David Wordler.
Yeah.
Wordler.
I'm really into like a Riddler who can't quite come up with the right name. And he's like, I know I do something with words. I'm the Wordler.
Yeah. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Jake Flores. That's Alex Patek.
What up?
Anders Lee is here.
Anders Lee here.
This is Pod Damn America, the Gothic Socialist podcast for Batman to listen to that gets upwards of 500 listeners and is a terror, a threat to the city. And our friend Naomi Caravani is back on the show.
Hello. Yeah, I'm your cringe correspondent today.
Right. Since all of the correspondents we know are out of work, we have to like stray animals. We have to let them correspond about stuff. So please. Yeah.
If you've got opinions, they've got opinions. Let them in.
Do
We've been deplatformed.
Do a segment.
Yeah. The war has officially gone cringe. The White House has invited TikTok stars to be briefed on the war in Ukraine.
And that's not a bit. That's an actual thing that happened.
Yeah, that's not a bit. Yeah, the same day this news came out, it was like Vice reported that Russian TikTok influencers were being paid by the Russian government to spread information. And then, and then the White House is inviting TikTok influencers who are American, but not getting paid. So that's better.
There's the difference.
That means they love it for the love of the game.
Yeah, so there was like an hour. You could get the recording. There's a Washington Post article about it. You could get the recording of the whole meeting, and it's kind of hilarious. First of all, you have like just somebody so bored out of their mind, just sighing into their mic and like clearly typing on their phone, like LMAO, I'm talking to Jen Psaki right now.
Which dances do I do when we discuss Don Boss?
Yeah, exactly.
Move your Don Boss.
I move your Don Boss.
There
Drop
was
your Don Boss.
How do I do the string dance in a way that will distract us from the Azov battalion?
Yeah.
Dance your Azov battalion. Does this work at all?
There you go.
Yeah.
Maybe on TikTok.
As an influencer myself, I do have to know, what are our marching orders? What does the state want from me right now?
Well, I like had mixed feelings about it because on the one hand, it's like really good to talk to people and be like, hey, we do not want to go to nuclear war. And we need to make that clear that any war with Russia means nukes are involved. So they did make that clear.
Right, because there was an influencer. I listened to the beginning of it, and there was an influencer who was like his family in Ukraine, and he just asked straight up, what about
that influencer? Yeah, go on, sorry.
Who's just like, what about a no-fly zone? Why isn't that happening? And to their credit, the White House, Jen Psaki, explained what that means, which is like, well, so we're trying to educate people that would actually mean war with Russia.
And they're like, it's really not in the United States' interest right now to get nuked. So, so the guy who asked that question about the no-fly zone was Ukrainian, and he's the son of Lev Parnas, a Ukrainian-born American businessman and former associate of Rudolph Giuliani, who assisted Trump's plan to pressure Ukraine to investigate Trump's rivals. So he is I guess his dad is a fishy character. Today he posted a video like Russian soldiers are being told to shoot at women and children. That was his TikTok today. And I
believe it.
So on the other hand, they're only talking about Russian disinformation. They're not talking about Ukrainian disinformation, of course. So that's the disturbing part to me, because like we're going to be pressured to do more in Ukraine.
This is a unique war because it really illustrates that none of the information that surfaces online is usable at all. It's all lies all the way down.
Well, I've been following my war nerds. They mostly like post about equipment and nerd about tanks and stuff, but occasionally they'll be like, hey, the US this guy's wrong about this. Like, if we send more weapons into Ukraine, they will still never win. And the White House's line was like, Russia will lose for sure. And it's just, I guess it depends on what objectives you're talking about, because like Russia has like a long list of demands, which is obviously going to be, it's obviously going to change as the war goes on. And so they were just saying like, yeah, Russia's going to lose. And it's like, they're doing so badly, but it's like Russia's not following the war nerds online. I'm like, okay, Russia's not fighting how they usually fight. They have enough air power to like wipe Ukraine off the map. So it's just Ukraine's going to lose, and the US wants this war to last so they can bleed Russia, basically.
Oof.
It's kind of interesting to see, because we've so carefully trained the media with the money behind it in this country to like at the snap of fingers just start salivating over blood. Like, you can get liberals worked up into a frenzy almost too easily, to the point where the White House now has to step in and be like, you're taking it too far. This is not good for us. They're moving to the yuan. That wasn't what we wanted.
Yeah, there was like a hashtag going that Libs came up with that was like pro no fly zone. I can't remember what it was. It rhymed or some shit, but it was like alarming.
Oh, no.
Because
the rhymes are what's going to lead the world to mass destruction.
It was
paper
weird.
Airplanes.
It was like, if this isn't coming from the like White House, they just did like this just came up organically because they're just trained at this point,
Yeah.
They just want to like sort of maneuver. I mean, that's kind of what the internet does to people in all different directions, but like you want to seem more concerned about this thing than the next person, and I'm actually more concerned about it than you are. I want a no-fly zone.
Oh, it was close the sky. That's what it was. It didn't rhyme at all.
Close the sky.
Close the sky.
Well, maybe they'll come up with a more sophisticated one. There was
They're gonna have to make it rhyme if they want it to get off the ground.
Yeah.
That's how planes work.
There was a question in the meeting about like, what about all these other wars? Like, why is Ukraine getting all this oxygen? And Jen Psaki basically blamed the media for paying attention to Ukraine too much. And then she's like, well, I hope this will get more people interested in other conflicts around the world, like the Uyghurs.
That's the last thing they want.
Right. Definitely no attention being given to the Uyghurs. Definitely no misinformation running around about that.
Yeah. But it's just weird to be like, all right, you're looking at Ukraine too much. Now look somewhere else, not Yemen or anywhere in Africa. Don't look at Africa.
All right.
Yeah. And to the TikTok influence, it's amazing that like, I feel like discourse on TikTok is actually better than Twitter, because like on Twitter, what are we arguing? Like, is Putin Hitler, or is Hitler Putin, or
it's pretty much a self-harm box now.
Yeah. But like on TikTok, people were, talking. I mean, people had fair criticisms of like media attention and how I feel like they're being a little critical. But then again, most of those TikTokers were obviously NATO cheerleaders. Like one girl posted a video the day before and she was like, yeah, why don't we just send fighter jets there? Let's just do it. Let's just send them to Ukraine. And yeah, it's not a surprise that she was invited to the White House, obviously.
Who is this guy you showed me? He's a TikToker who sounds like he's had a lobotomy and just reads headlines. It's literally just
some of them are just reading headlines and they have millions of followers. So if you have a ring light at home, you can do it too.
Yeah, I was about to say this part sounds like jealousy on a professional level from Mandy.
Yeah.
Maybe, yes. I'll admit to it. I want to be. Although, yeah, that would obviously bring up some ethical crises. If as a TikToker, as content creators, if we were asked to go to the White House, what would we do?
Yeah.
It's sort of nice to know that's never going to happen.
Yeah. I mean,
I
one
think it could
TikToker
happen,
was
buddy.
like, this does not make me a deep state operative by meeting with the White House. And I'm like, all right, we'll see what kind of information you post. But
Sure. Words don't mean anything, it turns out.
Yeah, what would then? Kind of the whole thing, right?
Just because I'm being told how to operate by someone who has an unelected position in the government and stays there no matter who is in office does not make me a deep state operator. I'm like Batman. This episode is about Batman.
Yeah. Well, okay. That segues, you know? As we will discuss, the movie The Batman is about posters, you know?
TikTokers.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Naomi? You liked Batman, right?
no,
What do you
I would not go
what do you
see
think
it.
about Batman?
Too
What do you-
long. Just
what do you
by
think it was
looking
a
at the
metaphor
running
for?
time.
What was it a metaphor for?
Batman. Did we have this conversation?
I don't know. I'm interested to get your take. Anyway, we'll have that
I think
conversation
he's a
offline.
fucking nerd.
Hey.
He's a cop.
There you
He's
go.
a nerd. He is a cop. He's a millionaire who I think the movie, the one thing I'll say that it wasn't realistic about is that it wasn't selling NFTs. Bruce Wayne should have been like,
Yeah.
I'm going to save the city with this picture of a bat smoking a
Right.
cigar.
Right. The bad guy in the movie is just somebody who right click saved. He
Yeah.
has to stop them.
You
Yeah.
kick their fucking
Can't
ass.
do that. This cost me thousands of dollars.
Yeah. As we'll discuss, I
And-
liked it as far as Batman's go. Still not as good as Batman Returns.
I would rather be talking about TikTok,
Okay.
obviously.
Ooh, TikTok. What if it existed in Gotham? What would they say?
Oh, no.
Ooh, Goth Talk.
Goth. Whoa, there you go. That's the name of this podcast. The new name.
God talk.
God talk.
Goth Talk. All right. Should we segue into this interview with our friends, the Horror Vanguard, about the Batman?
Let's cut
Yes.
to that.
Okay. What's Batman music I could bring us in on? Kiss from a Rose. It's a podcast. We're standing on top of a tower in Gotham City, singing with a scar across our face. Hello, everyone. I'm Steel.
Something in the way.
What?
Oh, right.
What are you singing, Anders?
The theme song for the Batman, which
Yeah,
is
the new Batman, it's the sad Nirvana song. That's the one they
Right.
go back to. It's just like, Batman wants to cut himself.
I heard
But he
there's a
can't.
take. I heard there's a take where it's just him looking out at the bat signal. It's like, sit and drink penny royal tea.
Yeah, he does the Nirvana songs that you're not supposed to put in movies.
Right.
Yeah.
You just the theme song is "Rape Me,"
Rape me. Batman singing "Rape Me,"
which technically is "Waif Me," because when they sold that at Walmart was actually arguably on sort of the progressive end of things by making this decision, but Walmart didn't want "Rape Me" to be on a CD that they sold, which, it was a different time, right?
Walmart's got to sell an alternative grunge CD, but
Right. They changed the track on the CDs to "Waif Me" instead of "Rape Me."
That sucks. And it's like the other track is like sit and drink. Sleepy time tea. You're so sleepy.
I'm just a rocking chair bear inside of me.
All right.
Wait, do I do the intro or are we already in the middle of the podcast
Just introduce the guests.
Fuck it. Okay, hello. Welcome back to the show, our goth brothers in arms, Ash and Jonathan from the Horror Vanguard.
Hey.
Woo. Hey, what's up? I'm Ash. How's things? How's our Nirvana cover band going?
It's going really well.
Yeah.
11-year-old me would be so
We
psyched.
did not reunite, though, to talk about Nirvana. We are here to talk about The Batman, and we should get right into it because it's a 3-hour movie, so the podcast about it is going to be 8 hours long. If I'm correct.
If this is anything like our Cruella podcast, it has to be longer than the film.
Why discuss this new movie, The Batman? What does it mean? What does it say about us? How do we make it go away? What does it want from us? These are all important questions. I'm going to, off the bat, tell you guys my experience with this movie because I think it is important to understand where I'm coming from with what I have to say about it. I went to go watch The Batman last week with our friend David Twitey. I was too hungover. He showed up visibly stoned, and we went to go watch this movie, and I have a sleep disorder, and the thing is, in the movie theater we went to, it's really cool. You're almost in a bed at this point in the movies because the movie theaters are a dying industry, so they're doing a lot of stuff to be like, go watch a movie in the theater. You can basically sit in a recliner with like a little fucking table for food and stuff. It's crazy. I kept falling asleep. So I went in and out. Like I was trying to stay awake. I was like biting my tongue and stuff because I have this problem where sometimes I fall asleep watching movies. It's 3 hours long. He was stoned out of his mind. So he kept turning to me and like laughing at stuff that who even knows if it made sense. So I had an absurd, like disjointed experience. I do not know what the story of the Batman was about, but I definitely got a lot of vibe and imagery from it. So that's where I'm going to be coming from. I think I got the gist.
It's a very vibe-based movie. I think that's fine. It's very vibe-based, but I feel like Ash needs to tell you all his experience with the Batman because it's amazing.
I had the opposite, like the literal opposite experience. I accidentally got tickets for something called 4DX.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
And like, so you sit in the front row, right? And so I sit down and my seat starts shaking. And I figured like, oh, there must be like a kid in the aisle with me. They're like kicking the seat, whatever. But then like the seat starts like snapping me back and forth. And then like a mister comes on and starts like hosing me down.
Oh, a mist,
and then, like a little action sequence starts
like
playing
a mister,
on screen.
like a guy.
Yeah, like a little mist, and like, like, a little guy comes out of the seat and hits me with a little mister, like I'm a cat. But then there's like strobe lights and fans going off, and a fog machine, and like it has smell vision.
This is a strange movie for this feature.
It is bizarre. So there's a point like in the beginning of the movie where Batman walks onto like one of the L platforms in downtown Chicago. And like right when that happens, like I swear to God, the seat missed me with like greasy Axe body spray smell. And like the whole time it's like shaking you back and forth too. It was like the most like disjointed and insane experience I've ever had.
You're getting punched by Batman. Batman's punching you.
I did that for 1917, and I'll admit I actually kind of liked it, but that's mostly because I'm a World War I nerd. So, but
that's like the POV war movie. It's the one-shot war movie, so you really feel like you're watching two unfortunate lads.
I have a bit on my album I just put out about this, but I went to an aquarium and they had Happy Feet in 4D, which was like insane. DJI movie for children about penguins. It sprayed me in the face with mist the whole time and stuff, and like rocked around and shit. It was weird as hell.
The correctly diagnosed children are the one who want the shaky seats that missed you, though.
Yeah. Do you remember when all the Marvel fans got really mad at Scorsese for saying that they're not cinema, they're just like a roller coaster? All cinema chains saw that and went, Now that's something we can sell.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
He's right.
Yeah, he's right. He's 100% right.
I forget which one of you two shared this, but speaking of the movie being a vibe, you were just posting brand new lyrics under your Batman review. And I was like, that's correct. That's the way it's intended to be viewed.
100%. 2022, the emo kids stay winning. Like brand new, the devil and God are raging inside me is what our Pats plays inside his Batmobile. Like, you can't change my mind on this.
Finally, a Batman movie to crash your car to.
Like all of the former emo kids like me watching it, like, he's just like me.
He's so sad.
He really is like, one of those things where you go, oh shit, millennials are adults now. In fact, might even
and at what cost?
Aging.
Oh my God! Yeah,
we got a Batman who's like an emo guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's and it works. I think the two things that I liked about this movie, or a couple of things, I liked a lot of stuff about it, but I think the main thing was where like he's an emo guy and he's a real weirdo, and all the characters are real weirdos, and importantly, they are reacted to by the normal characters in the movie correctly, because something that happens a lot in these movies is like. Because Batman is so like reified and in our imagination, like the people in the movies will just be like, oh, a guy wearing a bat suit, beating up a clown, typical Monday in the city,
Right.
But what I liked about this movie is it starts off with him like, his friend Commissioner Gordon is like, he's stigmatized within the police community for being friends with this freak, which is normal. That should happen,
right?
Yeah,
and he's
100%.
like, I got this weird guy, I know he's fucking weird, but he helps me solve crimes, and he's real goth, and he's hunched over a computer when he's in the Batcave, which is correct. That's a correct representation of reality right now. Everyone's hunched over a computer. And the other thing I liked about it is that it was noir, which is not, you kind of hasn't been done in Batman yet, really, to this degree, like the actual embracing of the detective genre.
Yeah. He reads stuff. He tries to solve crimes. He doesn't just, invent the NSA at the end of the Batman film. He actually has to try and be the world's greatest detective, which is cool. It's cool. We've not had that for a while.
Right. And I also, that was an aspect of this I liked a lot. So the classic choice with Batman is to kind of split a duality between him and Bruce Wayne. And Bruce Wayne is a playboy. He's a party animal. He's carefree, and, gregarious and charming. And Robert Pattinson was just the same guy, mask on, mask off. Right. He's a recluse. He's not, living it up and giving money to charity and all that stuff. Which they portray Bruce Wayne as just having like a secret side to him, right? And that's the only side to Bruce Wayne and to Batman, which I thought, and this made me think a lot about this quote from Christian Bale. I remember him saying once, I think when Batman Begins came out, where he was like, if he had to develop a voice to do as Batman that was different from Bruce Wayne. And he said, well, if I don't do that, then it's just going to be like I'm a guy who's really into S&M walking around in this batsuit, which is a good point if you're doing that duality. But Robert Pattinson took it in a completely different direction. He's like, yeah, I am a guy who's into S&M. I just am, not to stereotype, but like I am a moody, I am actually thinking about what it would take to make a person want to be Batman. And that's not something you can turn off. He's just like this all the time. And yeah, it really gave a much more realistic impression than the other Batman movies.
He looked spooky all the time. Was anybody else worried that he'd be in the room with one of the bad guys as Bruce Wayne? They'd be like, this guy's body language, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here, it's the same as Batman. Is he flapping his arms like he has bat wings when he's what I liked about this movie is that he is a guy who's into S&M. They're all freaks, all of them. He's a fucking freak. Catwoman's a fucking weirdo. The Riddler's a real scary person. He's incel hodgepodge kind of thing. Like everything you're afraid of on the internet is the villain. Is that the take? Is the Batman about the internet? Well, Jake, I have to say this on our podcast. We were watching the thing. and I was with a friend of the show, David Citrick, and the Riddler's giving one of his 9 long monologues he gives in the movie. And the Riddler, Paul Dano, has a very distinct way of speaking that he's done, I think, to kind of make his character into a type of guy you know. And we were listening to it, and David goes, "Don't you think the Riddler sounds a little bit like Jake?" Yes. And I was like, I don't really hear it. And then the Riddler was like, "Bruce Wayne, you've been bad." And I was like, yeah, okay. They might have actually looked him up for this. That's kind of crazy.
He's literally wearing my jacket. Like, the Riddler dresses like me.
He's a poster. He's a poster. My favorite line in the entire film is where they find the password protected video. You know, he's put out this post, and the commissioner turns around angrily and just goes, "Show me the post." Like, it's a movie about the dangers of never stop posting.
So what I'm wondering now, is there going to be a Discord server that is like an imitation of this, where people are like pretending to be in the DC universe, could that actually lead to IRL violence? Should we be concerned about
lone wolf
that?
murders like happened in the film? It's like a mix of like adult school shooters with incel culture is kind of what they're worried about. And I think that it's not totally out of left field is something that could never happen until the end of the movie, which I don't want to get super into, but I will say that the Riddler's forum buddies come out for him in a way that is very unrealistic to expect
because they didn't
your friends online.
Because that and spoiler alert, obviously, if you haven't seen it, or if you don't care about seeing it, just have that in mind. But that I didn't feel like they built enough. Like this whole community, they just kind of shoved in at the end when the movie should have been over. Like if they had built and maybe showed us some of these guys who lurk around on these forums and why they're like this and what they believe in. It was just all kind of sudden and jammed in, I thought.
Yeah, it was implied like he knows a bunch of sickos and here they are and they've all got guns.
Yeah.
I don't actually care that much that I missed the story here, because in my experience, Batman movie stories are like the story's the dumbest part. It's weird that they sort of get sold as like intellectual. Like, to me, the greatest trick, the greatest trick the devil ever played on millennials was like tricking us into thinking the Christopher Nolan Batman movies were intellectual when they were actually just like pretty. And if they said anything at best, they said very conservative shit.
Right. And I think this problem, in my opinion, plagues this movie as well, is that they've sort of conflated like making a more adult Batman, more serious Batman with having like a convoluted plot. Like it has to be complicated in order for it to have like any more depth than like the Schumacher films. And you don't need to do that. You can just make it a simple plot and make it thematically interesting. Well, like Batman Returns.
I think that the complicated nature of the plot actually paired well with that's part of noir, is what I'm saying. Like the idea that you were lost in the plot that's how you're supposed to feel when you watch The Big Sleep. The Big Sleep, fucking Raymond Chandler shit, when you read one of those books. This also was kind of like a cyberpunk type noir thing. So it was a little Blade Runner-y, and you don't really know what's going on in that movie either. So I kind of thought it worked, but that's my personal take. But I think, before we get bogged down in minutia about this, we should formally get at what did the horror Vanguard think of this? What is your you guys usually have a fucking theory about things that you watch, we have slightly different takes on this. So Ash, what's the HV line?
So I think there's a lot of like really interesting things going on here, and I think like you guys already hit on one of them, which is like this is like a weirdly millennial movie. Like everyone's a like little messed up internet gremlin who's absolutely terrified of other messed up internet gremlins. And like the fact that the movie's so long and convoluted, like everything just kind of like, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but like everything in my life just feels way too long and convoluted at this point. And so it's like, it really connects with that. But then I think like with the Riddler specifically, like, I think like there's kind of like two different kinds of Batman villains. You've either got like the psycho killers who are just kind of, cartoon psycho killers, Or you've got guys like, Mr. Freeze and Catwoman and like the Penguin, these people who are like, they have principled material goals that they're working towards that Bruce Wayne, because he's like got infinite money, could just snap his fingers and fix, right? Like he could just pay for all of Mr. Freeze's wife's healthcare needs and Mr. Freeze would stop having to like kill people and rob banks and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think like the fact that the Riddler is like, oh, why is he doing this? Oh, is he mad at corporations or is he just a deranged psycho killer? It's kind of like this internalized manufacture of consent that's happening in the movie. It's giving like a pressure release to like this neoliberal anxiety over like, okay, the system's a little bad, but the people who are against the system are like, they're going way too far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot that I really liked about this movie. I am here for the cinematic high point of emo revivalism. Let's get into our feelings. But like the kind of bleak thing about this film, which sort of works with its emo vibe, is that there's no way out, right? So the whole point of Paul Dano's arc is that he kind of has a point, right? Like he's the victim of social deprivation, and this is kind of clearly exerted some terrible mental toll on him. But the film kind of wavers on that question, like, oh, he's just crazy. But like, Mark Fisher talked about the social situatedness of mental health. Like those two things are related, right? The fact that Gotham is a shitty place to live and looks like a shitty place to live, full of horrible, nasty little goblins. And they go, oh, well, he's just a weird guy. And it's like, if the film had kind of, the film does a good job on kind of implicating Bruce Wayne, who's barely in this film, as being like up to his eyes in this legacy of corruption and retribution. But like, there's no way out other than like having this kind of, it makes Batman into this kind of myth figure. He's literally like at the end, the shot of him literally leading people out of the dark with the red flare, which is a cool shot, but it's like, it's also a little kind of like thematically on the nose. So it's like, there's no kind of political solution. There's no systemic solution. What there is like, there's the guy who can try really hard to fix things, because he has that conversation right at the end with Catwoman, with Selina. She says, this isn't going to work, right? He's like, I have to try. I have to try and do something. And it's sort of like, that's the best that we can hope for now. If we have the one guy who can post really hard, maybe there'll be some solutions.
Yeah, just mention all of the sick riddles in our society. Maybe we'll find a solution. No, we were talking about The Matrix over the winter, and I kind of see a similarity in this movie in that this is the first Batman movie I've seen that seems a little bit like it hates itself, which is like a new thing in superheroes. Like, Batman is very sad. He doesn't seem super convinced being Batman is doing anything. And then
crime hasn't gone down. It says in the movie, he's not even helping crime go down.
Supervillains have popped up and they think they're working with him, and they successfully destroyed the city. And then the movie's just like, the end.
Yeah, it's very like cynical and pessimistic, which is better though than like a weird like Christopher Nolan, I am the thing this city needs message. Because like we've been through that at this point. I don't think anyone is in a place in 2022 of thinking like anything like that like worked. And also, you know what? The pessimistic nature of it kind of spoke to me as like a socialist, because like Bernie's over and like we're just staring into a void, and Batman going, I don't know, this is all you can do is, I imagine sitting next to him at a bar and going, yeah, that's okay.
Right.
Yeah, like at least it's honest, right? At least it's honest.
Yeah.
Like,
and there's something in this too that I really like this pessimism and this bleakness, because like Jake, like you were saying, like the Nolan Batman movies are like these awful libertarian fantasies about like tactical stepdads from the suburbs wishing they could go to the big city and take down the thugs and save the day. And like this Batman is just like this jaded millennial who's like staring down environmental apocalypses with like the city flooding at the end, knowing that like there's nothing you can do alone. But like that despair, that doubt, like that's the recognition of the cracks in kind of the ideology of the Nolan Batman. That's kind of acknowledging like that way of thinking, that way of approaching problems. It's not going to stop crime. It's not going to stop the city from flooding. It's not going to save the day. You have to try something different. Even if the first thing that kind of happens to you is kind of this, I guess, Batman's crushing despair.
I did like that the movie ended with a call to mutual aid where Batman was like, I'll be at the site. We're stronger together.
Making soup.
We keep us safe.
The shot that Jonathan was just describing where he's doing like, helping, bringing people into light. And he's like helping people on relief copters in daylight. That just was very disconcerting to me for some reason to see Batman, I guess, during the day, maybe. I don't know. But
Okay. Well, he looks pathetic. He looks weak in that moment, right? And like I think that you kind of nailed it, Ash, with there's nothing we can do alone. And why the movie is so bleak is because everything about the Batman universe is about being alone and being a fucking loner. Everyone is alone. I don't know how they did this. Twitey said to me after we finished watching the movie, he was like, that movie was 3 hours long and somehow none of the characters were in it. Like, what did we just watch? None of them were ever on screen. And I don't know what was on screen for the 3 hours, but it's because they're all in the shadows, lurking around and stuff, and just sort of appearing here and there. And there's Batman passes no Bechdel tests. No one talks to anyone,
Well, that was, it's funny. I saw someone tweeted this, that there was a theater that was like, warning, this movie is very dark. The studio told us it will be very dark. We will not be issuing refunds. Again, this movie is very dark. And I think they mean
that's beautiful.
Literally the lighting is dark. And that I actually kind of like that, because especially in the scenes where we were talking about where like Batman is coming to the crime scene, which is illegal, and it read as more realistic just because of the lighting almost.
The mandatory back and forth of every scene where somebody's like, could somebody get Batman out of here? And they're like, he's with me. I'm friends with Batman.
Right. But yes, so one complaint I had too is Catwoman. We don't know how she became Catwoman. Maybe I missed this, but you don't explain how she got her abilities. Is she, somewhat supernatural, like in the Halle Berry version? It's unclear.
Well, they didn't really explain who Batman was either.
Right.
This being an origin, I think they're going to do a bunch of movies with this guy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I appreciated that they didn't do the same old like. Here's his parents dying again for the millionth time.
I'm glad that they didn't, but what it made me think about when I was watching it was how like this is like piece of modern American mythology or something, and like if you were new to America, or I guess the world, like if you're an alien and you landed on planet Earth and got one ticket to the newest hottest movie, you wouldn't know what the fuck was going on. But the movie works because Batman is like a fucking idea in the cultural imagination, and like we all know how he became Batman. So it's this weird thing where now you can start in the middle of the story if you want, because it's like part of our like lexicon or whatever. So anything you do with it is, nerds compare superheroes to mythology, and that's annoying and fucking stupid, but there is like kind of a point here because he's like this thing that we all have access to or whatever. So
it doesn't need any explaining. It's just in the math equation, given Batman as X, we can work from here. I took a class on this is like a required class. I had to take something on world cultures in college. I took a class on Japan, and it was all about, this was like 12 years ago or something. Japan has these crazy movies that are very postmodern, where they don't explain what the subject is. They just redo the same stories in different ways again and again. And they showed us like Evangelion. They're like, could you imagine if culture was this disconnected? And they were just ahead of the curve. We're doing that with every property now.
This is actually like a throwback to one of my favorite Batman comics. Bruce Wayne ends up being sent back through time and losing his memory. And so at every stage of history, what he does is dress up as a bat and fight crime. That's what he does. And it's like completely. This is why my one vaguely hot take about the film is that it's better than the Nolan Batman, precisely because it understands Batman is not like, what if Elon Musk had Raytheon drone technology, but it kind of takes it seriously as a kind of like American myth. You know, he's like the American Robin Hood, right? That's what Batman is supposed to be.
Right. The American Robin Hood, important to note, does not help poor people. He's kind of a scourge to them.
That's the American part, though.
That's the American part.
That is actually a brilliant point. Yeah.
I mean, he literally all of his enemies are mentally ill. Like he throws them in a hospital for mentally ill people.
Right.
He knows that about them.
they're all mentally ill, or like Catwoman is just like literally a Robin Hood, right? She's just stealing from rich people. Mr. Freeze is trying to fund medical research for his dying wife. Poison Ivy is an environmental activist. Like all of these other people are just like, they've got like pretty legitimate causes half the time.
Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins. I remember seeing that as a 14-year-old being like, he's right about just destroying capitalism.
Right. Bane too. He's like a leftist.
Right.
Came out around Occupy and they were like, wait,
oh my God.
watch that. Like, he's the villain? No, I want to hang out with him.
Yeah.
I guess here's what I'm getting at about the like postmodern nature of it or whatever. I think it works. First of all, Catwoman, fucking great. 10 stars from me. Really cool character, but she didn't have an origin. You're right. It's like a little weird. Like, and it's also weird. He's like spying on her and stuff. She walks like a cat. It's the whole fucking thing, right? But the fact that no one had origins, I think works in the same way. And this is going to sound weird, but this is just the first example that popped into my head when I was thinking about this. It's kind of like Detective Pikachu, that fucking Pokemon movie that came out a few years ago.
Yeah, we saw that.
Detective Pikachu was very funny, and it works in this specific way that I think movies about video games kind of work, where like when you make a video game, a lot of times you don't actually have a story. You just need to make characters. So like when they made like Mortal Kombat, they just like, I don't know, put a laser eye on a guy. We'll figure out why he has it later or whatever. Right. And then you make these movies, but where you've already got these established images that just have like little pieces of information and tropes attached to them that everyone knows. And so you get to do this thing where you reverse engineer the story and like make, you use these symbols to do whatever you want with and make a story out of. And I kind of feel like they started this movie with like a palette, and they were like, okay, there's all these Batman ideas that like everyone already knows. And from there, they could have made a movie about anything using Batman symbols, you know, and they just chose to kind of make a noir thing about, I don't really know. I'm gonna have to watch the movie again, but I'm sure it wasn't about anything really. It was just a fun aesthetic piece of, you know, art or whatever.
I am really excited to see like indie sort of postmodern Mr. Freeze, like what they're going to do with that character.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
He's Paulie. He wants one of his wives to come back from the
dead. So Batman's emo. Riddler's like a death grips guy, I think. Mr. Freeze is vaporwave, maybe.
Yeah, chill wave, Jake.
Yeah, chill beats the study to guy.
Yeah, you're right. He's super chill when you go into the cave that he lives in. And it's just like, man, god damn, I can hang out in here all day.
Try studying to these beats.
I do want to ask you guys something, because this was my main complaint about the movie, but it's also a criticism that at other times when it's a movie that I can, you know, I'm not annoyed by the length. I find it to be like a lazy critique. Like I remember when Tree of Life came out and everyone was like, yeah, it was too long. I was like, you don't get it. But let me ask you, as people who think about art seriously and have studied this stuff and you know, analyses of critique, and is that a valid criticism to critique a movie's length? Is that kind of lazy and you know, Philistinial, or is that a valid thing we can levy?
So I'm currently watching a movie that's 857 hours long. I've been watching it since I think sometime in February, but honestly, it feels like I've always been watching the movie now.
This is the Justice League Snyder Cut?
Yeah, this is the Snyder Justice League. Yeah, it's 3 months long and it's total runtime. It's a movie called Logistics, and it's almost entirely just a still shot of a boat, just kind of boating around. It's a real-time journey of a smart pedometer from a store in Stockholm, Sweden, where it's being sold, all the way back to the factory in Boan, China, where it was made. And there are almost no people in this, no dialogue, no music, no sounds, and like I feel like it's a good use of 857 hours. Like, this is interesting, and I think critiques about length are important because like this is a formal aspect of a movie. Like, what we do with time and how we interact with movies is one of the biggest things about them, right? Movies as a genre, like, play with time. They fast forward it, they rewind it. You see montages. And like, if a movie is using an endless amount of, like, there's an art installation called, oh my God, what is it? I think it's the 50-year movie or something like that. But a guy kind of like deconstructed a single movie slide that's been exposing over the course of 50 years. And so like it's not even done being made yet, in quotes, if we can even talk about it with that language, right? But like, if the movie is using your time and like doing something interesting with its runtime, that's great. But if a movie is kind of like dragging its feet and doing unnecessary side plots, like I think of like that last Avengers movie where like, you know, stuff just kind of kept happening and the plot didn't go anywhere. And I felt like I was just like waiting in line at the DMV next to Ant-Man. It was just incredibly dull.
They had that cafe scene, the diner scene where the Hulk is just like, oh, my fans, they're so hard for me. I'm the Hulk. This is 15 minutes of the film.
So bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Tarkovsky, right? He says like the big innovation of film is that you can take photographs. Photographs have existed long before cinema. And even like artistic composition of shots, that's like, again, photography. But like the whole thing that makes film what it is your ability to say time starts here and it'll kind of like, it stops when you shout cut. And it's like, I think the big problem with this is like how you relate to this film as a piece of narrative. Because we say it's vibe based, right? It's about mobsters and like being double crossed and like grimy little online trolls who are constantly scrolling in their journal that will be found one day by a law enforcement agency. Like, but if you go, this isn't telling me a story in an efficient way and in the way that I expect. I've been conditioned to expect the kind of big tentpole blockbuster to do. Then yeah, totally, it's too long. It's too long.
Okay. I feel like I'm usually the most cynical about superhero movies. I've generally just had enough slop and I'm full. If I want to watch more, I'll watch one of the ones I love already. You can make anything else now. That said, I was also high for this, enjoyed all 3 hours. Kind of liked that it meandered around all these things that didn't need to be in there. The around 90 minutes in, he's chasing the penguin on a highway, killing 100 people in a 10-car pileup, and then not killing the penguin. And that's just not even like a pinnacle of the film. It's just in there. It's just like you get to spend an evening with Batman, and I thought that was kind of experimental in a way that paid off for me more than a lot of the Avengers films.
When movies kind of first became like a commercial phenomenon that you can like go to a theater and see a movie, what the hell is that? One of the ways they would play is they would just kind of eternally loop the film all day, and you would buy your ticket, you would sit down, and then you'd kind of leave when you got right back around to your starting point. And this movie would be perfect for that. You just
100%.
Show up, and then Batman's just fucking some guys up, and you just watch until you sober up, and you can go home.
Bro, it's a great leave on in the background of a bar film, which is my favorite type of film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Played a million movies that way. I think to me, my take on the length of it is that the medium of the times that we're living in is actually television, and that it's people enjoy artistically told stories that fit better into this like chapter by chapter thing where you release 12-hour-long episodes in a chunk. And a lot of the stuff that they're trying to do with a movie like this is of the times and would fit better into that, but they had to make a movie because Batman is a movie and not a TV show. So it's just like, it's just gonna come out like 3 hours. It just feels weird. It doesn't really fit into what a movie is. It also probably wouldn't fit that well into a TV show because we are conditioned to go Batman as a movie. It's a thing I go watch in the movie theater on, summer blockbuster evening or whatever. So I don't think there's any way really to make this movie like this. We just got what it is, but there was all the things that it fell short of are like, if you added in one aspect of it, you would have lost in the other. And it's just like a weird byproduct of the times that we live in where we don't have,
And I know other people are maybe not as excited about this aspect as I am, but there apparently are going to be, there are some spin-offs in the works that are going to be on HBO Max, like a show about the Penguin. There's going to be one about Gotham PD, which was already a show. It wasn't very good, but I like that because and I may be alone in this, my favorite part of these movies and DC universe movies is the DC universe, and specifically like the cities, like Gotham. Like I get annoyed when people are like, oh, it's supposed to be New York, or it's, it's Gotham. It's supposed, that's a character into itself. And so is Metropolis. And, that's part of one of the most interesting things to me is looking at the tapestry of those cities themselves and, what they're like outside of the superheroes.
Yeah, it's Sex in the City. That's what Batman is writing about on his computer.
That is a killer spinoff.
I have to just ask this because I was wondering at the entire movie, did Batman used to talk like Rorschach? Like, did he like out loud be like, "This city is scum"?
Christian Bale, yeah.
Wound. I don't remember
Christian Bale's Batman voice was like that.
Well, sonically, like audibly, yeah. He did the Rorschach grumbly voice. But I think what Alex is saying is like the movie does basically open with the same monologue from The Watchmen with Rorschach, sort of like giving this assessment of the city and explaining to you why he is, a masked vigilante libertarian weirdo or whatever.
Right. But what's great about this one is like he's doing the Rorschach voice whilst at the same time admitting that he's sort of useless. It's like, I've made absolutely no difference, and I've not been able to get out of bed for 3 days.
That's weird. Like, I think I don't even know if the movie is self-aware of this, or this is just like something that just occurred in the making, or attempting to make a modern Batman movie or whatever. But like, he contradicts himself because, like, in the beginning of the movie, he talks about his spotlight and how, when I shine this spotlight, it's a warning to these people in the streets. These motherfuckers know who I am. And the first thing that happens is that he comes upon, I think, the Ghazi Black Hammer gang. Like, they're doesn't really explain who these fucking people are. But the first thing they say is, who the fuck are you? So, like, he's either, like, lying to himself or being proven wrong, or something weird is going on there where he is, I mean, maybe it does fit. Maybe he's a mentally ill weirdo who, like, believes that he's something that he kind of isn't, But
also maybe it's a statement about today and the lack of a monoculture, because there's, not everyone is watching the nightly news and hearing about Batman every night. If this guy is not being talked about on your TikTok pages that you view, then you're not going to know about him.
Well, what I really like about that is like there's this kind of inherent contradiction in Batman's kind of character, right? Because like his whole thing is he wants to save Gotham and lift Gotham up into a better day, and like Gotham's core problem seems to just be crippling poverty. And Wayne Enterprises is the single biggest company. And I think we can draw like a straight line to the source of the problem here. Like at the end of the day, Bruce Wayne is the villain that's destroying Gotham, and Batman is the hero trying to save it. And so his internal inconsistencies just always spiral out of him.
Well, that's what makes him crazy.
And that was a really interesting part of this too, is that, and they address this at I think one of the opening scenes is the mayoral debate with Mayor Royale, who's running against the current mayor, and he's talking about this fund, which I'm forgetting, the Wayne Trust or something like that. And it sounds, the way they're describing it, is like a public-private partnership that is supposed to be like, it's basically the only safety net that Gotham has, right? Because everything has been privatized, as we see in the Joker. And this is the NGO stepping in to supposedly save the day, but it's a money pot for all these corrupt institutions throughout the city. So it's not actually doing anything. And that was a big part of it too, as you were saying. Like he's he's grappling with his family's legacy and trying to save the city, at the same time discovering that his dad played a part in it, in this corruption. And I kind of wish they would have went full hog with that, because at first he learns that his dad ordered a hit. He's like, my father ordered a murder. And then it seems like, oh no, he just, may have, he told Falcone to do something about this guy, and he didn't know he was going to kill him. They're kind of trying to have it both ways there, but grappling with that
into maybe the most fun part of the film, which is this is the first Batman who has generational guilt about his trust fund and is willing to acknowledge his privilege and do better as Batman.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, he gets called out. Catwoman says to him, and she doesn't know his identity. She's like, I can tell you're from privilege. I can tell
he's
you.
He's a weird person to call out for privilege, because his parents are still like murdered.
Yeah, that's how he got his trust fund.
Well, but that was an interesting dialectic too. Is the Riddler saying, and I actually didn't understand at this point if he knew who Batman was, if he knew that he was Bruce Wayne or not, because he's trying to get him to come on his side. But he says, Paul Dano playing the Riddler says, Bruce Wayne is not a real orphan. I grew up in a fucking orphanage, with rats on the floor. He grew up in a mansion. He's raised by Alfred and Jerry from Succession, which made me laugh out loud the moment she came on screen. So that's an interesting.
Alfred sending her dick pics the whole time and stuff.
Yeah, so that was an interesting dynamic there too, with like identity and privilege and all that stuff, and where do you get the right to save the city? Where do you get the right to be a vigilante and then tell other people they can't do the same thing or similar things?
It's just such a perfect snapshot of where Western culture is right now, which is like, we have a sad Batman who talks about his privilege, and this is the political film of the year.
Right.
Yeah. He's very sad. He doesn't know what to do but break people's legs.
I mean, Batman is a great American myth because, like, as we were talking about a couple steps back, like he's very like schizophrenic, in the philosophical sense, about like being the cause of the problems that he's fighting and not really being able to look at that square in the eye and go, maybe I should stop dressing up like a bat and I should fucking nationalize the local industries and all this, do all this fucking stuff boring that would help society, right? And like he's a great but the fact that he's like slowly figuring out, bummed out about it and incredibly pessimistic about it is like a great kind of metaphor for the way people feel about cops right now. Like a lot of people are just very cynical in their support of them, and like U.S. empire in general, being the cause of all of the things that it then fights and turns into villains and throws in its Arkham Asylum,
Yeah, this is bad, but what else are we going to do? He's a very relatable version of Batman. Like I remember like COVID hit, and we were all stuck inside. I wasn't doing comedy for a while. And then much like Batman, it gets out and you're like, well, all I've been doing for the last 10 years is telling jokes. I guess I'll go back to that. And Batman is having that revelation, but with like Muay Thai in the dark or whatever. Not really confident about the goal anymore.
Yeah, he's very much like beginning to question why he does this, but not, that happens after this movie's over, probably, if it ever has like a full-on breakthrough with it.
I do want to just throw something out here, because I was rewatching Batman Forever last night, and I had forgotten this plot point, which is the last Batman movie with the Riddler in it, I believe. Of course, played by Jim Carrey. And he uses Edward Nygma, which is the real name. I don't know why they gave him this other name.
Say his name,
Edward Nygma. But he's a guy who worked for Wayne Industries. And this is in that version of Wayne Industries and Batman. Bruce Wayne is a hands-on CEO. He's an upstanding citizen and all that. And he has an idea that will beam TV signals directly into people's brains. And remember, this is 1995 that this came out. And Bruce Wayne is like, I can't in good conscience support such a technology. And then the Riddler ends up using this device called the box, which steals information from users' minds and transfers it to the Riddler's, thereby making him smarter. I just thought that was, because we think of the Schumacher ones as being just total fluff. But that seemed, I don't know, kind of like a heavy-handed statement perhaps on the technology of television. But what, if anything, do you guys think that says about today and maybe the difference between that Batman and this Batman?
One of the big shifts that I think happens at Batman, especially like going back to like the 1966 Batman through today, is that like Batman, like at least in the movies, is like really camp. Like there's a lot of like really theatrical, really effeminate, really excessive, like really kind of over the top and ridiculous. But it's still like you were saying, like it's still got these like serious philosophical, political themes that run underneath that. So you can bring your 8-year-old kids and they're going to be like, look at the goofy costumes, Dad. And then like, you can be like, oh yeah, that's a comment on television. This rocks. And then like slowly like Batman like becomes more militarized, right?
Right.
Like Batman reflects policing in a lot of ways, right? His Batmobile goes from like a really cool, like souped up muscle car to like just a tank. And he's wearing even in this movie, like they scale that back a little bit. It kind of like starts going back to a less militarized Batman, but there's still like a scene where he's like walking head on into dudes shooting assault rifles at him. And they're just like it's not even affecting him at all.
Yeah.
And I think like that for me is like one of like the interesting shifts that's been happening like through that, like the Nolan movies were like the focal point of this, but like Batman kind of became this embodiment of like inflated policing budgets.
Right. And that's one thing I really liked about this movie, too, is that he still has the Batmobile, as you said, it's a bit scaled back, but the motorcycle, it's tricked out motorcycle. But when he's riding the motorcycle, he doesn't wear his costume because why would he? Why would you draw attention to yourself like that? Yeah. That was a smart choice, I thought.
The car rocks.
Yeah.
This was a sick Batmobile.
in a way, it sort of struck me as like this is a kind of deconstruction of Nolan's Batman. And it's like going, all right, let's just be honest about what this person would be. And it's like, you can't go any grittier, right? So in a way, I'm kind of hoping that sort of like camp self-aware element of like Jim Carrey in a green suit inventing Neuralink is going to come back.
Yeah, Mr. Freeze. It's hard to, like I said, it's hard to do a non-campy version of Mr. Freeze.
I mean, one of the cool things to kind of point out, something you said, Anne, is that like this understands that Gotham is like a place. It's not just like the Nolan ones. It's like, oh, it's just downtown Chicago because that's where it was filmed, and they put it in IMAX. And this one is very clearly inspired by the animated series. So I'm kind of hoping that if they do bring in Freeze, there's going to be the kind of like, in this one is very cynical and quite bleak and pessimistic. So like, let's bring back the sort of tragedy of American healthcare. And this poor guy who has literally no other choice than to try and use what he has to keep those he loves alive. I'm like, that would work with this Batman. That would work.
Absolutely. Well, I'm curious, do you guys think Mayor Real will change the whole picture in Gotham and make it into like a small social democracy?
Completely forgot about this character. Sorry, the narcolepsy.
Batman AOC.
Yeah. Talk about that. What was going on there?
Well, it was
is not ever run for mayor. I can't imagine. That's like a weird like platform for change of just like, I'm redoing the whole thing as mayor right now. Let's go.
Well, yeah, it doesn't say a lot about her, political views or platform. Not that it has an obligation to, but interestingly, though, one of the first scenes we're talking about, the debate scene, the current mayor is like, you want to shut down this Wayne program that's done so much good. And so that kind of gives a hint that she wants to buck the established order in some way.
Oh no, you want to shut down the CIA front NGO that's been distributing crack for the last 20 years.
That's interesting.
There's definitely a tension with the kind of like Mayor Real and like I was thinking about like that debate scene, and I was like, Man, like this feels like a pre-2016 political scene from a movie, you know, like you don't have like an out and out fascist just screaming at the top of his lungs versus like a milquetoast Democrat. Like these seem like two like level-headed TV politicians with disagreements, and it felt kind of like oh, that was from like the before times. That was before everything like got real.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I would say is that the film is very clear that like all these political institutions are like hopelessly corrupted.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what is it the film says? Like Falcone's been the mayor for the last 20 years anyway, right? So the whole point of like who's running for mayor, this film goes, well, it's kind of incidental, really. Like you expect that right at the climax of the film, the mayor's going to get to give the kind of big inspirational speech, and they immediately get shots. So it's like the whole point of it. Like if the film has a kind of politics, it's not predicated on elected officials, right?
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's why it's sad. If you're Batman, you're not trying to like redo Gotham. You're not trying to have like a revolution in Gotham, America, right? You're trying to fix the city with everyday actions. In your case, punching people. You're doing liberal reformism in Gotham, which is very sad. And I think if you are an American liberal right now, or somebody who really believes in this kind of reformative processes, this is a hard time for you because you can't believe in anything.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that like sort of this, and what sets this Batman apart, I guess, is the fact that it is modeled quite literally after Kurt Cobain. Like when I'm forgetting the guy who made its name already, but when the director who also wrote the script was writing it, he was watching Last Days, the Michael Pitt, the Gus Van Sant directed movie with Michael Pitt, where he's like Kurt Cobain's last day alive. It's just him kind of like rambling around, fucked up and depressed. And that was somebody who had, you know, was not totally, was not apathetic at all politically, but ended up being defeated, right? He did not ultimately try to change the world, or at least he gave up doing that. He didn't really make an attempt. And
He was disillusioned.
right. Disillusion. Yeah.
He believed so hard that, you know, he figured out how everything works. And then, you know, you got the 1,000-yard stare that you get when you finish reading a book that explains everything, and then you kind of realize you can't do anything about it or whatever.
Right. He wanted to be a rock star, and he thought that would solve all his problems. And Bruce Wayne wanted to become a superhero. He thought that would solve his problems and his city's problems. And neither of those things are so simple.
And then he was killed by Courtney Love. For the next hour of our podcast, we'll be getting to the truth.
Yeah, this is
True
the
crime
Riddler
pivot.
show. We have upwards of 500 followers.
I have a long list of misogynist sources we'll be going through point by point.
Anything else we should get to? I think we have a theory here, a pretty solid one, which is that it's about the hopelessness of the current thing we're all living through.
Which is to say, I loved it.
Yeah, all you can do is try. All you can do is try, because nothing else works. And if all you know is you spend your nights posting and then going out to fight people on the street corner, just own it.
Yeah. Remember, folks, don't be like Batman at the beginning of the movie. Be like Batman at the end of the movie, getting involved in local organizations, helping girls in traction.
Yeah. Ladling out soup and stuff, but you're still in the bat suit.
Still wearing the mask.
Yeah, that bugged me so much. That reminded me of the post 9/11 comics, you know, when they had like all the Justice League like helping relief after where were you when the planes were about to hit the buildings?
So Superman was conveniently off world on the morning of September 11th.
My one complaint about this movie is there's a line at the end, obviously spoilers, everyone, yada yada yada. You listen to the whole podcast, you should know that. Paul Dano's Riddler is in Arkham, I'm assuming, or holding still somewhere. And then there's a cameo from Jared Leto Joker, who can hear through the next door that there's another weird guy like him hanging out. Like, holy shit, there's two of us? Cool, I got an idea. And he says this line to the Riddler where he goes, he tells him a riddle. Very clever, right? And the riddle is, the less you have of me, the more I'm worth. To which the Riddler responds, a friend. That's the answer to that riddle, which is weird because if you're taking like basic economy, that's how everything works. The less you have of it, the value goes up. So it makes no sense that he'd be like, a friend is like losing my fucking mind in the theater.
Maybe Bernie Bro Riddler needs to open a textbook.
Yeah, maybe these supervillains need to read some Karl Marx.
Right. Which is about friendship, as we all know.
Yeah,
that's true.
Who was that guy, by the way? He looked hairy.
Huh?
The cameo for, I think it was Barry Keoghan played the cameo, but was Joker?
Yeah, I think the actor confirmed that he's supposed to be a Joker cameo, but I think director Matt Reeves has gone on to state that they don't currently have plans to use that Joker again in the future. So it's just like it's a fun little scene.
Okay, there was room to cut. I'll say there were some things that maybe didn't have to be in the final version of the film.
There's like 3 endings. Yeah, when he busts up the penguin, I thought that was going to be the end. By the way, did not remember until after the movie had ended that was Colin Farrell who played the penguin.
Amazing.
You walk out and you go, hang on. Hang on, was that... Did I just have a stroke?
His greatest performance to date. I'm not sure they needed all 4 scenes of Paul Dano singing Ave Maria. I don't know what that was supposed to mean, except it was crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot to jam in 3 because the tradition is you choose 2 villains for a Batman movie, and they chose 3, or 4, arguably. Anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of fucking characters in this movie, and none of them were on screen. It doesn't make any sense. All right, well, I think we did it, folks. We explained the movie in less time than the movie took to watch. So
nailed it.
Our greatest work to date.
Watch the movie and then listen to this podcast, and that's a full 8-hour workday that you all right, let's do some plugs and get out of here. Where can our listeners find our friends here at the Horror Vanguard?
We are at Horror Vanguard podcast, wherever evil, creepy podcasts can be found. I'm on Twitter at Darovania, and the Lit Crit Guy is...
Well, I'm on Twitter at the Lit Crit Guy. In exciting news, we are doing our very first live shows in Chicago.
Oh, cool.
April 7th, 8th, and 9th, we're going to be at the University of Chicago. Please keep an eye on social media. If you are in the area and you can swing by and say hello. We talk about the 3 important things. We talk about friendship. We talk about communism. We talk about horror movies. What more can you ask for? If you like the show, why not support the poster's lifestyle? Why not support the podcaster's mission? At patreon.com/Horror Vanguard.
What do you have to lose?
Should we do ours?
Yeah, we might as well, right?
Yeah.
I am at Anders Lee here on Twitter. As you may have followed, and I think we may have said this up top, all of my videos for Redacted Tonight, which was on RT America, have been taken off of YouTube. We've been deplatformed by YouTube, possibly the deep state, I'm not sure, but you can see many of the segments I did on my Instagram. For now, it might be taken off there too, but at Dursley1 on Instagram. Subscribe to our Patreon. We just did a deep dive into the polar bear expedition in which the U.S. invaded Russia after their revolution, and also our Twitch, which we're going to be doing more stuff on. I might be, and I just decided this a moment ago, we'll probably be doing some Twitch streams in which I pretend to be in the DC universe, the DC Comics universe. Oh my
God.
So check that out to see some good role-playing stuff.
This plug section is huge for me. You can follow me on Twitter at Patak Test Kitchen, your number 1 stop for exciting new flavors. And big news for New York listeners, this Friday, March 18th, Paid Protest returns to the Secret Loft at 8 p.m. with special guest, TV's Anders Lee, dropping in raw, doing all of his illegal comedy.
Raw. My live show is at the Gutter in a couple days as of this coming out, the 15th. That's next Tuesday. The Gutter in Bushwick, Brooklyn, Williamsburg. It's a bowling alley. It's a punk bar. My show's at 9:00. You know the drill. Stand-up comedy hosted by me. What else have I got? My other show's Why You Mad? I'm at Feral Jokes on everything, and I'm going on tour with Eve 6 in a month. If you haven't got tickets, you should be warned. We sold out Comet Ping Pong Pizza, the pedophile restaurant from the Hillary Clinton conspiracy theory. So 2 nights we sold out. So shows are selling out. Get a ticket if you want to come watch.
Those kids are going fast.
All ages show, by the way, at the Comet Ping Pong Pizza. Bring your kids.
It is funny how that's a DC thing, all ages.
Wait, is that a DC thing?
Yeah, it was Ian MacKay's like the main thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. It's finished.